Oh, hi, everybody. I mean, I'm not sure a political report is what's most apt. I mean, it's more like a military report, but if you're interested, I can update you. Things are happening so fast. It's hard to believe that the killing of uh, Hassan Nasrallah only happened since our last meeting. It seems like an age ago, the way things are going. So, in terms of obviously the fighting between Lebanon and Israel is ramping up and has ramped up, and I would recommend that people look, if you haven't already looked at that very informative email that Mary forwarded from Elaine Hagopian about the kind of demographic political setup in Lebanon. I won't repeat that, but it's important background for people to understand. The only thing I would, clarify a little bit is that on the political level, these sectarian divisions in Lebanon are not hard and fast. The there's a secular left in Lebanon that is not connected with any particular religious ethno sect, and although Hezbollah and Hassan Nasrallah are, based in the Shia community that's principally in the south of the country and the Bekaa Valley in the east. Of course, Beirut itself has a strong representation of all the different sects and tendencies within Lebanon. And the sort of southern suburbs of Beirut, sort of between the downtown and the airport, are collectively called Dakia. And that's where, most of the Hezbollah supporters and Shia in the Beirut area live. But even in the south, which is predominantly Shia, no part of Lebanon or no part of the greater Syria and the Levant is sort of ethnically pure. It's a mosaic. Even in the middle of the sort of heavy Shia population in the south, there are Maronite Christian villages, and in the north center of the country, which is mostly Christian, there are some Shia villages and so on. So you can't really chop up Lebanon regionally, or any place else in the Middle East for that matter. So you all know the war, the fighting, missiles and bombardments across the border and between Lebanon and Israel has been going on since the day after October 7th. And just as a reminder, although the publicity is that Hezbollah has been bombarding northern Israel, the attacks from Israel on Lebanon throughout this period have been much more numerous and much more deadly. But it is true that because of this threat from Lebanon, most of northern Israel has been depopulated of civilians. And this is an enormous sort of political factor within Israel and within its planning. They claim that their strategic goal is to allow the population of the north to return, and for that they need to either destroy Hezbollah or move it much further away from the border, where they can use short range missiles to attack in northern Israel. Uh, um, so basically, about 100 people a day on average have been killed in Lebanon, and much of the Dahiya neighborhoods have been flattened in order to assassinate Nasrallah and his close associates. Israel used up to 85 U.S. supplied busting bombs and flattened an entire neighborhood, and killed some unknown hundreds of people in the process, which is an old practice of Israel. Iran had been threatening to retaliate against Israel since its embassy in Damascus was attacked, and since Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the political bureau of Hamas, was assassinated in Tehran. And last night, of course, the shoe finally dropped. And what's interesting in a lot of ways is that the initial reports from Israel and from the U.S. was that Israel successfully repulsed this attack, and as if to say, don't believe your lying eyes, believe what we're telling you. In fact, there are numerous videos all over the internet that show scores of Iranian rockets raining down on Israel, primarily on military facilities. And it's interesting, the Israelis, one of the ways they claim this was a failed attack is that no one was killed in this attack. And the reason for that is that the target was military facilities and not civilian population centers, even though the headquarters of the Israeli military is in downtown Tel Aviv, in the middle of a civilian population, which they could have attacked as the Israelis would have done. But instead, they attacked mostly airfields and tried to hit the Mossad headquarters in northern Tel Aviv. And they did a lot of damage, and it was a huge blow to Israel's military prowess. Supposedly, their Iron Dome and other anti-missile technologies were impenetrable, and in fact, you could see a raining down of Iranian missiles all over southern Israel, including the air base where U.S. military transports ferry U.S. Supplies, military supplies, to replenish Israel's attack on Gaza. It's not too far from Gaza. And that airfield was certainly damaged. We don't know how many, how much. There's very severe military censorship in Israel. Also, just today, there's been talk lately about Israel launching a ground invasion of Lebanon, and there have been minor incursions over the last days. But just today, a unit of their elite sort of ranger force was ambushed right near the border of Lebanon, between Lebanon, a place I've been to several times, and 8 elite Israeli troops were killed and apparently dozens wounded, and the rest retreated back to Israel. So this is a sign of the kind of fighting Israel can expect if it launches a larger scale invasion of Lebanon. And meanwhile, in Washington, they first cheered the successful defense that Israel supposedly made against the Iranian missiles, and then basically gave the green light to Israel's retaliation, although they claimed that it should be proportionate, whatever that means. You can be sure that if and when Israel retaliates, it won't be on purely military sites, and many civilians will be killed because that's their modus operandi. No matter how many civilians can be killed, if they have a military objective, they'll carry it out. And you can judge for yourself which country is more humane. So we're in a very dangerous situation. The U.S., by the way, cheered, of course, all across the political spectrum in the United States. They cheered for the assassination of Nasrallah and justified Israel's attack on Lebanon, but are also kind of nervous about it. I mean, the Washington view is that it's okay for Israel to kill a lot of Arabs, but not too many. Not too many. And, they kind of wring their hands and basically shrug when Israel does whatever it wants to do, again, with U.S. weapons. They could be stopped with one phone call from Biden threatening to stop the supply of weaponry. And, of course, that's not likely to happen. So, that's it. We're in a very dangerous period. Iran says that they've only used a small proportion of their missile supply, and if Israel attacks them, it will be with F-15 long-range fighter bombers supplied from the U.S. If Israel attacks them, they are going to retaliate much harder, and if Israel threatens or actually carries out an attack on some of the main Iranian oil refining facilities, they say they're going to retaliate against all the oil refining facilities around the Middle East. And of course, the price of oil and gas will skyrocket. By the way, it shouldn't have to. It will, because the U.S. price of oil is dictated by world market prices. In fact, the U.S. is entirely self-sufficient in oil and gas, and it's a net exporter of gas. But because it can export oil and gas, it basically pegs the domestic price to the world price. So if the world price of oil goes up, oil will go up, oil and gas will go up quite a bit in the United States as well. So, and of course, we're a month away from an election, and any number of possible October surprises are available. It's certainly clear that the Israeli establishment is supporting Donald Trump and will do whatever they can to make it easier for him to get elected. And what they have as a surprise that's waiting, we don't know, but something possibly along those lines. And by the way, again, I've said many times that, it's not just the leadership, the far right wing leadership in Netanyahu that's a problem. Israeli society, the majority of Jewish Israeli society, is deeply, deeply pathological at this point. And the more Netanyahu's government has killed in Gaza and now Lebanon, the more popular he gets. So don't think for a minute, as the liberals do, that somehow changing the leadership at the top of Israel is going to solve the problem. Israel is a deeply problematic society, which is a danger to our own political system and a danger to the world. And sooner or later, we're going to have to grasp that before they take down the world with them. Israel is a nuclear power, as you know, has hundreds of nuclear weapons. And this is in all this fear mongering about the possibility of an Iranian nuclear weapon, which is just a possibility. Nobody talks about Israel's nuclear weapons. All the countries of the Middle East, with the exception of Israel, are signatories to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And if they have any nuclear activities, it's monitored by the International Atomic Energy Commission. Israel, of course, is not a member of the NPT and refuses the demand of all the other countries in the Middle East to declare the region a nuclear-free zone. And the U.S. backs them in that. So just when you hear about all this fear-mongering about Iranian nuclear weapons, which don't exist, remember that Israel actually has nuclear weapons, which do exist. So, and the other power that has nuclear weapons in the Middle East, of course, the U.S. We have major bases around the Middle East that contain nuclear weapons as well. So Israel and the U.S. are the only nuclear powers in the Middle East. So,
Thanks, Jeff.
And by the way, Cole republished that article of mine that I wrote a couple of years ago, mostly about Hezbollah and the Shia in Lebanon. And if you haven't read it, I recommend it. It's also gives some good background of what's going on now.